see. Oh, hang on. Let me, oh, shoot. Now it won't let me get that thing off of my window. Oh, hold on. There. That's so weird. Hang on, let me just get this little box off the thing.
Go ahead.
Okay, there we go.
Perfect.
All right, guys, how is everyone doing?
How was your, real quick, how was your I Loved convention this year? And
Yeah.
everyone, welcome to Monday Night Ignite. And Jodie will be speaking tonight on auricular therapy, which is great. It started over 2,000 years ago. So how you apply that with essential oils is, we've been doing this for so long, and it's just a great therapy. But how was your convention trip? I'm so excited about everything.
Yeah, so good. I mean, I've got the collagen and ninja greens in my hotel room right now. I've been taking them for a little while now. But yeah, so good. I thought it was just really nice to be there together, obviously. And it had such a family feel to it this year. I mean, really, like the whole vibe is just so amazing. So if you guys were not there this year, you better be there next year.
That's right.
For sure. And I'm glad that you have been doing auricular therapy. I mean, it's not really like anything new, but here's the thing is a lot of people, well, there are still people who don't know about it, of course, because we're always learning. But you know, where I kind of wanted to start with this is, you know, obviously we're going to teach a little bit about some of the basics with auricular therapy. Auricular medicine. They're kind of similar, but a little bit different. So I'll give you a little bit of a backstory, and then we're really going to keep it super simple because we tend to overcomplicate a lot of things in this world, and we tend to overcomplicate health. And if any of you guys know me, or maybe you follow me over at the Warrior Center, I like to keep things very simple. Because again, once we start overcomplicating things, we actually energetically sort of give ourselves away to the system, so to speak, right? The more that we, I mean, it's okay to ask questions. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. We want to do that. We want to be curious. We want to dig deeper. But there's kind of a difference between like analysis by paralysis, right? Or paralysis by analysis, actually, I think is the proper way to say it, where we want to really just watch that balance that we have when we're discovering more about our health, is that we don't get into paralysis by worrying too much about, am I doing it perfect? Am I doing this right? And the beautiful thing about what we all have at our fingertips is you can't mess it up. You literally can't mess it up. It's just a matter of doing it, right? So let's get into it. Are you guys ready? Okay, and again, I don't know that I'll be able to keep an eye on the chat, but we will do Q&A at the end, or you guys can ask me whatever you want, doesn't matter. And we're gonna keep it, again, super simple. So auricular therapy is a little bit different than auricular medicine. I will just say my first introduction to auricular medicine was when my son was going through his autism recovery process. And auricular medicine, they're both very energetic. Auricular medicine's a little bit more, I would say, like looking at the pulse points of the body, and part of auricular medicine is you can bring different things towards the body, like different allergens that you think somebody might have, or different heavy metals, and just looking for imbalances in the body, and your pulse will change. And so it's just a really cool way to non-invasively see what's going on in the body, which very kind of similar to muscle testing. And I'm sure many of you guys are familiar with muscle testing. But in my opinion, a bit more intentional and a bit deeper with overall auricular medicine. Now, auricular therapy is also very energetic. And I actually did this when I was pregnant with my daughter. I had really, really severe morning sickness. And so it was the first time that I was like, all right, I'll go to an acupuncturist, because I just really didn't have a need before that to do it. And other things we were doing were fitting perfectly well into our life. So that was my first sort of introduction to the power that we have with our ears. And now acupuncture is obviously the use with needles, and some people don't like that. Maybe they don't like the pain of the needles or the uncomfortableness, and maybe you don't have a good acupuncturist around you. But anyways, that was my first introduction to the power of the ear. Fast forward, obviously, into this journey that just keeps unfolding, that we all have with natural health. and oils or supplements or what have you, and the power of the ear in terms of emotions as well. So the point being, this has been around a long time. Okay, and there's a lot of different avenues that we can go with this, but the history of auricular therapy is it really is a therapeutic stimulation of the ear. Okay, there is obviously, you know, as Stacy mentioned, it's been around for thousands of years. It's very rooted in Chinese medicine, and the ear is a meeting point of all energetic channels of the human body. Now, again, you can call them whatever you want. You can call them chakras, you can call them energy centers. I don't care. We are energetic beings and we have to recognize that we are energetic beings. And that's not a bad thing to say. If you are alive right now, you obviously are, you're watching this call, you're breathing, you are an energetic being. So whatever you want to call it, but let's just recognize the fact that we are made up of energy. It's like if you are in a room with a big old Eeyore, Debbie Downer personality, are you going to walk out of that room and be like, let's go conquer the world? No, you're going to walk out of that room being like, oh my gosh, I feel like that was like depressing, right? That's an energy transfer. So we are energetic beings and we have to recognize that because that is a huge part of the holistic lifestyle, honestly, is energy. That actually is a very foundational pillar of holistic medicine is energy transfer and energy work and how our body works on an energetic field. So had to say that. Auricular therapy is simply the stimulation of specific ear points to elicit a therapeutic response in the body. So that basically means your ear, these beautiful things that our bodies have been designed with, not just to look kind of cool and balance out our face, but guess what? There was actually an intentionality behind everything designed in our bodies. We can't deny that either. You know, you look at little things like the ears, or you look at just even the belly button and all the energy points there, the feet. If you guys have ever done like the raindrop technique or taken maybe even the care training, you guys, you're working on energy, right? So your ears are beautifully made with all of these points on them that specifically correlate to parts of the body. All right, so the ear acts like a switchboard to the brain. So when a point on the ear is stimulated, sorry for the typos. This was seriously in my hotel room, so there might be a few typos. I'm human, not perfect, but it's okay. You're gonna get the point. When a point on the ear is stimulated, it sends a signal to the brain that is then transported to the area of the body that you would like to target. So if you think of acupuncture, again, they are often treating different parts of the body. You could go back to my experience with morning sickness with my daughter, and they're stimulating certain parts of our body that are going to correlate to that need or that illness or that condition or whatever you want to call it. Now, the good news is that you don't need needles all the time, right? Sure, if you want to go to an acupuncturist, that's great. But you guys, listen, there are so many things that we have at our fingertips. You guys know I preach about this all the time, that we literally have a treasure trove right here. But are we using it? Are we using it? That's the key. We have to use it. We can't just let it sit there. Okay, so a little bit cool feature about the ear. Guess what? I want you to picture your ear as an upside down little human, because that's what it is. It's pretty cool. So you know how when you look at your feet, right? So many of you guys have been exposed to, again, different emotional points of the feet. Oftentimes we say, press on the big toe, and that's your acupressure point for your brain. If you didn't know that, you know that now, right? So cedar wood on the big toe is incredible to help with the brain. You know, like the arch of your foot, or like the top part of your foot by your toes, that's great for the lungs and for breathing and stuff like that. Now, similar, right, with the ear is we actually have points that correlate to how our body is made. So now you're never going to look at the ear the same, because it literally is like a little upside down human. And that's where the points are. So the lobe tends to go for the head, right? The upper part of your ear is very indicative of the lower parts of the body, like the feet and the legs and things like that. Now, auriculotherapy is actually very underutilized, very underutilized. Again, some of you guys may know about this stuff, but I tell you, there are still millions, if not billions of people that don't understand this or know that it's around and how easy it is, how safe it is, how natural it is, and how fast it works. So pretty cool to picture the little upside down baby. Yes, it's kind of neat to know, like, just remember the top of the ear is like the bottom of the body. The bottom of the ear, the lobe, is like the top of the body, like the head, okay? All right, auricular therapy. So also I want you to think about the roots that we have. Now, this is something that is, very applicable to just overall natural wellness, is looking at the roots and the branches of the tree. You've seen, I'm sure, a lot of charts that relate to this, but any system of the body you can target with auriculotherapy. And the roots of your tree really is how we are nourishing our body. I actually want you to think of the roots of your tree as your terrain. I talk about terrain a lot too. The terrain is what we want to focus on in order to keep everything else strong in the body. So those can be things like, hey, am I living a healthy lifestyle? It's okay to go through in and out every once in a while. Trust me, my husband loves it. It's like this thing where when I'm on a trip, I get millions of text messages of food. I'm going, well, that doesn't happen when I'm at home, right? There's only so much we can control, but a healthy lifestyle in general, meaning, like, for the most part, we really are making intentional choices about what we're using and eating, and also teaching ourselves and educating ourselves about better choices. Things like seed oils. A lot of people have no idea how inflammatory to the body seed oils are. So just little things like that, right? In positive thoughts. We know that what we're thinking, our emotional state, has an effect on our physical body. There is no denying that. If you ever have felt nervous in your life, you feel like you're going to throw up. That's an emotional connection point to your stomach. So we want to nourish the roots of the tree, which in turn are going to help our body in an outward sense flourish and thrive. You'll notice, do you guys notice when you're around people who just have really good energy about them? I guarantee you, they have really strong roots to their body, because it's an outward expression of their energy and how strong their terrain is. Okay, so we can also, so auriculotherapy is really great to help some of these roots. Get to underlying causes as well. Oftentimes we can go from this doctor to that doctor and this person to this person, and trying to figure out what's going on. And at the end of the day, we actually really do know what's going on. It's just that, are we able to recognize that? Are we in a place emotionally and physically to be able to go, yeah, I kind of know what the root is, and I'm willing to work on it now. So auricular therapy can actually help with a lot of those things because it opens up channels in the body. Okay, so remember those energy centers, those channels, it helps to open that up through the ears. Okay, so what you need in auricular therapy to be a good home study is you just need a good chart. Honestly, and you can find charts anywhere. You can get them off the internet, you can get them in books, wherever you want to find a chart, you can get one. And it's really, truly as simple as getting a good chart and knowing a little bit about where to put something, tools, which we'll talk about in a second, and then your master points and condition points. Now, again, let's look at this ear here for a second. You'll notice right off the bat, oh my gosh, okay, so if I remember that baby was upside down, well, this makes sense. Look at the middle of the ear. That's where a lot of the organs are in the body. Isn't that cool? So this just kind of gives you an idea, even just looking at this chart, how cool our ears are and how many times we go throughout our life every day and we don't think about the fact that we can actually use our ears to help target some of the things that we're struggling with. Little things like, again, the esophagus, the lungs, the spleens, the bladder, all of that stuff. Now, I'm of the opinion, and I'm a big fan of, you know what, just like do it all. Now, I don't mean do it all and get overwhelmed, but what I mean is if I was having, if my head hurt Okay, well, not only would I do something on my ear, but I'd do something on my head, and I'd probably do something on my feet, and I'd probably take some supplements like some sulfur or whatever. I would do a lot of those things that help overall with just what I might be feeling. Because at the end of the day, when you're choosing something where the so-called side effects are happy side effects, they're good for you, there's no going wrong, right? Okay, so a good chart, tools, master points, and condition points. And your master points and condition points we'll talk about in a second here. So tools, I want to talk about tools for a second. There's a couple tools that you can use. Obviously, oils are going to be a tool that we talk about, and things like that, and pressure points. But ear seeds are actually really cool. You can just get them on Amazon. Don't worry about where to get them. Easy to find on Amazon. And you can actually put them on different points of the ear and wear them throughout the day. Not harmful. Again, totally safe, totally natural approach, but it's a way that you can keep something on your ear in a specific point. Let's say you want to help release emotions, or you want to target some physical type of thing. You can use these ear seeds that are actually really, really beneficial. And then, of course, again, you can layer with oils too. Okay, so how do they work? Tiny seeds of the Vacaria plant are adhered to acupuncture points. So they're a very small size, allows them to fit perfectly into these small spaces of the ear. If you've ever looked at your ear and you go, like literally, if I put my index finger on my ear, it covers like a quarter of my ear. So Jodie, how am I going to know where to put something? How am I going to specifically find that little tiny point? First of all, remember, don't overthink it. Don't worry about it. Okay, you got this. But you can use these little ear seeds to get into little specific parts of the ear. That again, you might want to be a little bit more intentional about. The Vacaria is a purple flowering plant known in Chinese medicine as a blood tonifier, and it promotes overall health. So again, this is just part of Chinese medicine. I'm a huge fan of Chinese medicine, obviously a huge fan of all of these modalities. And you know what we use every day, which a lot of you, again, use oils and supplements every day that we all use, it just completely is synergistic and it fits together. So here's another one. If many of you guys are fans of crystals or pretty things, you can also get these in like I can't ever say that word, Swarovski crystal. It's a tongue twister. Clearly, I don't wear Swarovski crystals. Instead, I wear big things on my fingers. I forgot to put my rings on. So you can get little pretty ones, right? And you can do crystals. Again, crystals do have energetic components to them as well, depending on what they are. So again, this is just another option, and they're really, really pretty. You'll notice that she has an ear piercing on the inner part of her ear. We'll talk about that in a second, but that has often been known. You know, there's kind of this thing where a lot of people have pierced that part of their ear in a way to help treat continual migraines. Okay, so the basics. What, where, and how. Again, the what is really just getting a chart. Getting a chart. They actually are also in a lot of the books that we have. I guarantee you, like some of the books like the EODR, Releasing Emotional Patterns, that one, the blue book, I call it the blue book. They all have a lot of wonderful acupressure points in there as well. So the what is obviously our what is, well, if I want to be really intentional about something, so let's say, and we're going to get into emotions at the very end, but let's say there's either a physical type of thing or an emotional thing. And also I would say this too, is when it comes to children, who can agree with me that children can be some of the toughest nuts to crack? You're like, what's going on? Really, what's going on? And then it's even harder and more challenging if they can't really communicate very well to you. Maybe they don't have their language fully yet. Maybe they're little. You know, it could be a diagnosis of something and they just can't communicate in a way that we really can understand what's fully going on. This is a beautiful modality to be able to use where we don't have to like sit there and go, I don't know. We can get some stuff on the ear and it's going to do something good. So the where is now we're going to like look at this ear, and I want you to look at this and go, oh my gosh, literally look at everything in the body right there on your ear. Like, that's phenomenal to me. If you really think about it and you go, okay, there's the elbow, there's the wrist, there's the thumb, there's the hip, there's the skull, like all of these things. Now, again, you don't have to remember this tonight. You certainly can screenshot it if you want, but you don't have to remember this. Again, you can definitely find some really good charts that you can keep in your home, and you can just reference them when you need to. The where, again, is obviously we're going to learn that. We're going to learn a few. I'm going to go over some top ones today, but just know that there's a whole thing that you can do with the ears depending on what you want to target. And then the how we'll get to, of course, which is very simple, of just like, let's say I want to target, my toes or something, I don't know, then I know exactly where to put something. Okay. Okay, here's some things, so just some language to kind of go over with auricular therapy. You do not have to remember this, but again, if you have a chart, then if you go to, let's say, look something up and it says the helix, you can go back to that chart and you can go, oh, well, this is where the helix is, right? These are just some common things that we look at when it comes to auricular therapy. So there's, your helix, there's the tragus, many people understand the concha, right? Because you think of like a shell that you might get at the beach or the ocean or something, and we're all really familiar with that. So a lot of people understand that, and they understand the lobe. But, again, it's not like you have to remember this stuff. It just gives you a general idea of what's going on and, how it plays out. Okay. Okay. So if we look at this a little bit deeper, this is just maybe a little bit more for you nerdy folks like me who love information like this. But again, remember that even if it comes to my legs are going to totally go numb. I'm for real sitting on a pillow right now. So you're welcome. Okay. So let's say we want to understand some of this terminology a little bit more, right? So we have point 0, which is your ear center. The Shen Men comes up quite a bit, which we're going to unpack that in a second. But this is like kind of like right here in the upper middle part of the ear. And this is actually a very common place in Chinese medicine to talk about, or that they utilize, because it's one of those things where, like, if you kind of don't know, you just put it on the Shen Men part. And I kind of like to say that word too, Shen Men. I kind of picture, like, I don't know, I picture some kind of like movie of people fighting or something. I don't know. The autonomic point. Okay. So this is part of your sympathetic nervous system. So remember that the sympathetic nervous system is something where fight or flight can be a part of that. And circulation in our body can be a part of that fight or flight. Allergies tend to be a really big topic with a lot of people. Again, I just want to remind you that so much of what we are confronted with has so much to do with our terrain, you guys. It's like, again, just I encourage you just to go a little bit deeper, right? Just go a little bit deeper, that it's not just, what's coming off of the trees. Okay. Your body has a beautiful ability to adapt. And as much as, again, we can use things like oils to help with pollen and stuff like that. If you go a tiny bit deeper and you just really, really look at your terrain and how your gut health is, there's so much beautiful healing that happens. But again, the apex of the ear, which is going to be the very top of the ear, is a great place to put things as well. The thalamus point. So your thalamus is a really cool part of our body, because this is like where we can actually calm ourselves down in the morning when we wake up. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever done this before, but if you go, this has nothing to do with the ear. This is just a really cool tip. But if you go to where your collarbone is, like kind of go to the middle part of your sternum, okay, go over a tiny bit where you feel that like collarbone, and you tap really, like, see how much I'm tapping, okay? You do that when you wake up in the morning, and I guarantee you will be not as anxious throughout the day. It is part of your fight or flight, like your parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system that balances things. And so tapping this when you feel anxious, then you can even combine an oil with it and tap right there. It's like profound how that will change your day. But anyways, your ear also has obviously thalamus points that connects right there. Okay. Your endocrine point, of course, this is like pituitary, thyroid, adrenals, sex organs, all of that kind of stuff. We don't need to go over all of these, but again, you've got left brain interaction. So this can be a really great thing to think about when it comes to maybe children, right? Children who maybe need a little bit more support focusing, or they have some sensory things going on. But just even looking at this and you go, oh my gosh, like that is how powerful the ear is. And it really is that powerful. Okay, I'm gonna move this. I don't know if it'll let me. Will it let me move this little box up, you guys? Oh, yes, it will. Okay, I'm going to try to move it over to the side here. Okay, so now we talked about the Shen Men, right? So remember, the Shen Men was like one of those parts of the ear. Now I want you guys, I see Rob touching his ear. I want you to do like Rob, okay? This is interactive here. Either he's itching his ear or he's actually practicing. I don't know which one, but this is interactive. So I want you guys to do this with me. Okay. And as we're talking through, I want you to get familiar with your ear and start touching it. So you have the Shen Men. And again, that is one area where if you don't know where to put something, you can just put it there. The sympathetic, the 0.0, all of these things, again, correlate over here to what we just talked about. So if any of that speaks to you, like maybe you're like, oh my gosh, so yeah, kind of need a little bit of support with my hormones, kind of not sure maybe what's going on with my allergies or whatever it is, right? Again, go back to this and then look at the chart, and that's where you are going to put something. Or, you know, again, it could be an oil, it could be the little nodules. It could be a combination. We'll get into that. But anyways, really cool stuff. Okay. Why will it not let me? Oh, hang on. Now I got to try to figure out moving this chart again. Hold on. Oh, it did work. Okay, yay. Okay, so again, just going back to this example that I pulled, because I feel like it really speaks to a lot of people, because this is something that can be very common throughout the year, depending on where you live. And that apex, that upper part of the ear, is a really great place to put oils. Okay, so that's just an example for you guys. Okay, I wanted to show you guys another chart again, just to kind of give you guys this like, wow, look at where all this stuff is on the ear. And I want you to really, even like Rob's doing, go around and touch your ear and go like, okay, if I touch right here, where this like little lip of my ear is, okay, well, guess what? That's like my nose and my inner ear. And like, what if I'm like dizzy one day, or what if my ear's plugged, or what if this, or what if that? You got this chart, you get something, you put it there, right? Simple. Remember, simple, simple, simple. We do not have to overcomplicate it. Things like, oh my gosh, look, TMJ, forehead, anything going on with your hand or your wrist. Now, obviously I would put something on my hand or my wrist if I felt something, but why would we not also be a little bit more intentional and put something on our ear too? I mean, why not, right? So again, this just gives you a really, really big picture, just like if we were looking at our feet, or just like if we were looking at the spine or anywhere else on the body, of how all these points connect, because they really do. That's the cool part, is our body. Don't compartmentalize your body, friends. Don't compartmentalize it. It all works together. And the minute we start compartmentalizing things, we lose that intuitive power that we have to listen to our bodies. And each and every one of you has that. I promise you, you have that in you. Okay, we're doing really good on time here. All right, so how do emotions sink into auricular therapy? I love to talk about emotions. I don't know about you guys. I know it can be painful to talk about emotions. It can be hard to be like, okay, I'm finally ready to like get rid of, you know, what this person did to me, or this betrayal that I felt, or this like past, you know, event that happened, or this family generational trauma. I get it. It's not easy to look at what we call like our shadow selves, but it's so worth it. And emotions, as you guys know, we talk about it, I feel like, on a lot of different calls, a lot of different topics. Emotions are the root of it all. They really are. I mean, yeah, I can go outside, I can stub my toe and oop, ouch, I got an injury from stubbing my toe. It may not have anything to do with emotions, unless I stubbed my toe because I was really angry and I was looking at my phone and I don't know, somebody sent me a nasty message. But that's one thing, to stub your toe. The day-to-day uncomfortableness that we feel in our bodies, that's emotions. That's emotions. You could even look at something like emotions can drive us to make not so good decisions about our health, right? How do we comfort ourselves? Some people comfort themselves through food. So actually, emotions does have an effect on the physical health of that choice too. Emotions really are the root of so much, okay? So auricular acupuncture is a type of, and this is, again, a little bit more about emotions. You know, again, yes, acupuncture covers this too, but again, that's not for everybody. But specifically done with the ears, again, the ears contain points that connect to pathways within the entire body. So when pressure, your pressure, doesn't have to be a needle, your pressure, endorphins are released from those pressure points, promoting both immune and emotional health. So we've kind of talked a little bit about the physical part, but now I want you to like kind of put that together and go, well, yeah, but it's not just physical, but there's also an emotional connection there too. And so this auricular therapy that we all can do on ourselves, we can do it for our family, we can do it for our children, we can do it for our spouse, our partner, whoever. This is great for emotions because it helps to release those endorphins, that the endorphins actually help to seal, in a way, some deeper emotions, okay? All right. Acupuncture, so the needle acupuncture works by addressing the root cause of a condition, but again, so do many other things. It doesn't have to be invasive at all, right? So auricular therapy, being very similar, also can help address a root cause and cause repressed emotions to come to the surface. When we do this, you do want to be a little bit prepared because, you know, it's again, like anything that we would choose to do. If I am going to make an appointment to go to a psychologist and talk through my emotions, I'm probably going to have some things come to the surface and it's going to be really uncomfortable and it's going to be my choice whether or not I want to work through that. Whatever we're doing, I could stick my face in a diffuser and a blend could be in there that just like brings some stuff to the surface and causes me to cry. That's the whole point. We got to get it out. The more it stays in your body, the sicker you become. Okay, I'm going to say that again. The more it stays in your body, the sicker you become. So yes, when you do this, you might notice that you have a little bit more of emotion. You might cry a little bit. You might feel a little bit different. In general, emotions, good or bad, are felt more intensely if we're really intentional about how to release them, but that is a good thing. Would you rather, and I want you to put your answer in the comments, can't read them, but I will read them later. Would you rather have that be in your body and potentially turn into something really bad, or would you rather get rid of it? What's going to be the better choice? Might be a little uncomfortable at first, but guess what? In the end, it's going to feel really good. Okay. All right. We get rid of trapped emotions and talking about trapped emotions and energy blocks here. So everyone carries unprocessed emotions from experiences. However, emotions that aren't dealt with, they don't just go away. So we've kind of already talked about that a little bit, but I want to give you some overall holistic things to think about when it comes to emotions, because yes, these are wonderful. You guys listen, I will talk about these all day long. There's only so much I can say here. I'm probably already skirting the line a little bit, but that's okay because that's Jodie. They're wonderful, but there's other things that are symbiotic with that. It's kind of like when a lot of people say, and I know I say, you can't just down your multigreens and then go drive through In-N-Out and expect to be healthy, right? So we can use these, they're wonderful, but it's not going to do as much for me if I'm continuing, let's say, to have toxic people in my life, or I'm not putting up boundaries with people, or I'm not willing to look at my shadow self, right? So just a few things to work through repressed emotions alongside using the techniques of auricular therapy, using things like oils and supplements, is acknowledge your feelings. How many times, or actually, let me ask it this way. How many of you have actually looked in the mirror and made a bold statement about yourself that you know is hard to say, but it's true? To get it out, to literally get it out. I know I've done a lot of that in the last 2 years. And it's actually really important to name the emotion, to name the feeling, to help bring that to the surface. And then we use our tools like auricular therapy to help release that. So it's really important to do that. And it's hard. It's hard because it goes to that part, those parts of ourselves where we don't want to look at them, where we don't want to admit them. So acknowledging your feelings, working through that trauma. So again, these tools help you work through that trauma, but it actually starts first with making the intentional choice to want to do that. Your shadow work. So your shadow work is like going to that other side of yourself. There's a whole, maybe we should do a whole call on shadow work. That'd be super fun. But it's going to those deeper, darker parts of ourselves that we don't want to go to, that actually on the reverse side of that heal that generational trauma. Intentional movement. This morning, okay, I'm here in a hotel, totally could have just laid in my bed all day and worked. Nope, got up, I went and ran up and down on the stadiums, right? My butt hurts, my glutes hurt, my thighs hurt, feeling awesome though. And you know what? That intentional movement made a huge difference in my day, huge difference. We can't sit, we've got to get up and have movement. Movement moves stagnant matter around your body. That's what you want, because if you don't move, the stagnant matter just sits there. And you know what is a stagnant matter energetically? Take a guess. Emotions, right? So movement helps to move and work a lot of that stagnant emotion around too. And then practicing stillness. So this could be prayer, this could be meditation, this could be anything that you like, but it's just stillness in general. It's just being still for a moment, because we live in a world that we are so bombarded by so much, you guys. We're bombarded. I mean, honestly, I really truly believe the reason why we are seeing so much happen in the world today is because for years, people have been conditioned to be busy and to move, like just be busy, 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 looking at their phones, busy, 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 all the noise, right? Stillness is a lost art. And so that could even be a combination of your movement and stillness. Maybe you go hike up a mountain and you go sit there on the top for 15 minutes and you have stillness. You'd be surprised what can happen to your body when you do that. Okay, so the emotional ear reflexology chart. These are just a few. There's so many, but I wanted to just show you some. And then there's another chart that I pulled that may be a little bit hard to see, but you can find it, so don't worry about it. And this is just going to give you some ideas of parts on the ear to look at. I'll tell you that fear, right, in the last couple of years, fear has been one of the biggest emotions. And now I think some of that fear is turning into a little bit of like feeling overwhelmed, you know, feeling like you don't belong, like you don't fit in, like so much has changed in the world. And that's a really, really important thing to be working on right now, because you don't want to get to, you know, a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and you're like, oh man, I totally should have just like worked on it a couple of years ago, because now I really don't feel good. So fear, I would say, is a big one. And again, these are just parts of your ear that you're going to play around with. And so if I want you, you know, if one of these things sticks out to you right now, you don't have to say what it is or anything like that, but I want you to pick one and I want you to touch that part of your ear and start practicing that. Better yet, take anything you love. I don't care what it is, as long as maybe it's not oregano, it doesn't like really burn you or something, if you're really sensitive to stuff. And I want you to put it on that part of the ear. Start practicing with that right now. And we'll get into how long you do it and all that kind of stuff. So I think another one too is, you know, with children right now, just what they have gone through in the last couple of years is really working a lot on sadness, a lot on just all the stuff that has happened. And you guys, they're observing it. You know I've kept my kids pretty, like we had a very intentional way that we approached the last couple of years, but it doesn't take care of everything. Children are very astute. They're very observant. They know what's going on and they feel it even if they don't express it. So again, the ear is a great place to be able to use something where maybe you don't know what specifically is going on, but you can kind of take a guess, or maybe you just want to be proactive about it. And, you know, sadness is a big one for sure. Okay, this is the chart that actually it came out pretty good. This will give you an idea of maybe a little bit more intentionality if you want to, you know, kind of, again, look at some of those things that might speak to you. I will tell you, a big one that a lot of people don't really realize is the mother-father stuff going on. Anybody out there have mother-father stuff? Raise your hand. I guarantee it's almost all of us, okay? And it doesn't necessarily even mean it has to be a bad thing. It's like, yeah, I can look at my parents and I can be like, yeah, I really love that about them. Or I could look at my upbringing and go, you know what? I'm gonna break that cycle on that. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be a horrible thing. It can just be little things. And then there are some people who absolutely have come from upbringings or backgrounds that are a little bit more traumatic. So I guarantee you, every single one of us has some maybe little tiny or big mother-father thing to release on our ears. But this just kind of gives you an idea again of some things to look at. Okay, top pressure points for release. So I kind of pulled this one. Let me move my little, oh shoot, hang on. Okay, so I pulled some top ones that I think just across the board, you know, can fit into somebody's lifestyle, let's say, or what they're dealing with. So there's a lot of people that deal with more head tension, earaches, things like that. So again, remember that the apex of your ear up here is your head, right? So we're just always going to remember the reverse down here is your head. However, the apex of the ear is one of those pressure points that really connects to the head. Okay, so this is just something to keep in mind that I know a lot of times, even when I am, even when I'm like, I don't know, I could be in an airplane, I could be anywhere and I just don't feel myself. I can take an oil or I can take something and just press it right to the top of my ear. And it really, really helps a lot with any kind of discomfort. Okay, I did pull the head, even though this does not have anything to do with the ear specifically, but this is a part of the body that a lot of people forget about, is how insanely open energetically the top of your head is. I very often put a lot of things on the top of my head. I mean, even just like that all the time, especially before I go to bed at night. Now, obviously things like cedar wood, I'll do that usually at night, especially if I'm going to wash my hair in the morning, because it can make your hair a little bit greasy. But there's lots of oils that don't do that. And I'm constantly putting oils on my head because I know that that's such a tremendous point for the entire body to open up all channels. All energetic channels to the top of the head. So don't forget about that spot. My top spots for acupressure are obviously going to be the ears, the top of the head, and the belly button. Those are literally my top spots. And I'm putting oils on those areas all the time. Okay. And if you start doing that, I promise it'll make a huge change. Okay. Remember when I mentioned the earring? Okay. So what's interesting about this is there actually is really no anecdotal evidence to show that piercing the ear right there is going to do anything for head tension. However, what is interesting is that this area of the ear is still an acupressure point. So I don't know so much that piercing the ear is going to do anything permanently other than, yeah, it looks cool, and bless anybody who has the pain tolerance for that, because I do not. I have pain tolerance for a lot of other things, but not usually my ear. But this is a really great place to press and put things for head tension as well. Going over a lot of head tension because I feel like that's quite often a very common thing for people. Okay. The ear gate. So this is a part that's not maybe necessarily part of the ear itself in terms of this cartilage, but right here is like an opening to where your ear, it's what's called the ear gate, right? It's like an opening to the energetic channels. And this is such an incredible place to put pressure for things like tinnitus. I know I get questions a lot of times on what to do for the spinning and all that kind of stuff. And, there's a lot of things to look at, of course, but just even right here and even both sides, you can begin to press, right? And do that right there on what's called the ear gate, and can help just alleviate and help a lot of things. Okay. This is again just another chart for you guys to look at, where we look at again, think of that like inverted baby, right? So you've got your head, even though this apex is kind of random rogue thing, because this can help your head too, but you know, your earlobe is always another place to do that as well. And your earlobe is actually one of these spots that I would always put an oil for emotions. If you're not sure where to put something, pinch it on the earlobe. It's like a fail safe, honestly. Now remember, oils travel. We don't have to be perfect. If I put an oil on my feet, it's going to travel somewhere in my body where it needs it, right? So we don't need to overthink it, but your earlobe is a really great place to put things. And then, you know, like, again, just think of your body, right? So if you're like, all right, well, it's a stomach thing. Okay, well, just like put it in the middle of the ear. Okay. My back hurts or this or that. Okay. Go up a little bit higher to the other part of the ear, right? All right. Are we getting it now? Is it like really, it's really cool stuff, guys. Oh, wait a minute. That was the end of my PowerPoint. You're welcome. Okay. So let's see how we are doing. I know that was fast and furious and a lot of information. I didn't practice the timing of it. So I know that's a shocker, right? But what kind of questions do we have? Anything, Stacy, stand out, or anything I need to look at, or?
Yeah, I'm just double checking real quick. I just put a link to some of the different charts that Jodie was going over in the chat. So you're welcome to click on that and, you know, screenshot those or print them or whatever you need to do to help yourself. Should you do the points on both ears equally?
Oh, thank you for bringing that up. Okay, that is totally what I forgot. So I apologize, guys. So yes, so first things first is timing, okay? About a minute is what you want to hold for. Okay, so I would say in general, you hold for a minute. Again, those little things that you can stick on the ear, they can just hang out there all day. You can put oils on and then you could put that on. I mean, you can do all that kind of stuff. But in general, you know, when I'm doing it, I'm going to take both and I'm going to like press and hold my earlobes. Now, typically, I will say in traditional auricular therapy, like if I was working with a client or something, like physically there with the client, I would start with the side that their pain is on. That doesn't always apply to emotions though, right? But I would start with, like, if I had, you know, something uncomfortable in my hip over here on the right side, I would start on the right side and I would do that. But it doesn't mean that you can't do both. In fact, you kind of want to do both, of course. But I would start on the dominant side. So you can be intentional about that if you would like. When it comes to emotions, it doesn't totally matter. I mean, I would say, again, we all have a dominant side. I'm left-handed, so I tend to go a lot to my left for things. But you really can't do that wrong. But you hold for about a minute to a minute and a half. All right.
I love using, you know, we always teach people to use, like, you know, white angelica and then just really massage it through your whole ear if you're, you know, quick on the go here. But I just think it's like one of the best places to put white angelica, for me at least.
Yes.
And
I mean,
actually, until we started doing that, like, I just never realized how good it feels to rub your ears either.
Yes, and I do want to go over this really quick too, because we have a few minutes, which is a lot of people are really nervous to put oils in the ear, okay? So oftentimes what we teach, what I teach is I go, well, you don't have to, you don't really have to drop an oil in the ear, okay? The reason I would tell somebody, yeah, you really just don't have to, is because for many people, like, their eardrum is super sensitive, and that layer is that just like that little layer around it is super sensitive. So just know for inner ear kind of things, or for more, I don't know, painful things, let's say, you don't have to put it in the ear. What I like to put in the ear is coated silver or Neutrona silver. I'm not a fan of the clear colloidal silver. Me personally, it's just garbage in my opinion. So coated silver, I like the one from David Wolf. You can just get it off his website, or Neutrona silver. You can get it at purifyyourbody.com. I think they still carry it. That is what I will drop in the ear for, let's say, a more, you know, situation like a child has an ear infection or something. On the outer part of the ear, again, go back to the auricular therapy information. We don't have to drop an oil in the ear. You have so many points around the ear that you can use. So let's just take a typical, like, I know, gosh, it was probably like 5 years ago now, maybe 6 years ago. And I had a crystal. So we have little crystals in our ear that keep you balanced. So I had a crystal dislodge in my ear that caused me to spin all the time. Like literally, the minute I put my head back, I would spin, spin, spin. It was so bad. And my only option, of course, from the other side that I don't like to choose from, was to take all this stuff that would make me drowsy and supposedly just make me feel better, but not do anything about my dislodged crystal in my ear. Now, oftentimes they do rectify themselves, and you can do craniosacral therapy manipulation to help with a dislodged crystal. But some people don't know they actually have a dislodged crystal. It can be pretty common depending on what you're doing. So anyways, all I did was I took my helichrysum. Okay, I know this is like, you guys, I know it's expensive. You need to have it in your cabinet. I promise you. You may not use it every day. All I did was go like this in my ear multiple times a day, multiple times. I'm not dropping it in my ear, but it's going in my ear. I'm just doing that multiple times a day, and I'm rubbing it around my ear, and I'm massaging my lymph nodes and getting the stuff out. And I'm doing, there is actually, and it's not hard to look it up. You can find it on YouTube, which is, you know, how to turn the head and do all that kind of stuff to help a crystal go back. And you can find people who can do the manipulation as well, who are trained in that. But anyways, I just did that. I did that for like, I want to say it took like 2 days, and then it just rectified itself. So just a little tip, again, working with the ear, you don't have to drop the oil in there. In fact, I would recommend not dropping it in there because you don't know particularly how sensitive your ear might be, or your child's ear, but you don't have to. You can just go like this and around and just cover the whole thing, cover the whole thing. Now with emotions, I'll just end on this. I know we're getting to the next call in a second. With emotions, we want to combine the techniques of releasing emotions, coupling it with the auricular therapy and the oils, right? So if you think of just the basics of emotional release, first, it's recognizing that you have that emotion going on. Probably the hardest part for most people, right? Because it's painful and we want to ignore it, and we want to just like, well, if I ignore it, they'll go away, but that person is still in my life. So it doesn't really work very well, does it? Right? So we have to recognize what's going on and being willing to recognize that. And that's actually the first part of emotional release. And then it is grabbing, let's say, an oil that matches that. So I would go to your blue book, your Releasing Emotional Patterns book. You can look up the oil that will help to kind of match with that emotion, okay? And then you want to think of the other side of that, okay? The other side of that emotion, which, you know, if I'm feeling fearful, you know, the other side of that is I'm confident. I'm confident in who I am. I'm confident in my choices. I'm confident in what I'm doing. And I'm saying that over and over because there actually is a connection point that happens in your brain that when you say it and speak it, it actually becomes a reality. So there's that piece of it. And then it's putting the oil on that connection point of the ear. It's inhaling it and getting up into the limbic system of the brain and doing a lot of that breathing, releasing emotional work where you're like, 3 deep breaths, always in through your nose, out through your mouth. Rabbit trail for a second. We have got to stop breathing through our mouth. You guys are like cutting off the oxygen to your brain when you're breathing through your mouth. So breathing more through your nose deeply. If you notice you have a mouth breather in the family, we want to really get to the root of that because it's like cutting off oxygen to their brain. So breathing deep in through the nose and out through the mouth, just like gets it out of your energetic field and gets it out of your body. So honestly, that's an easy way to target emotions and help release them. And you don't have to, I mean, it's right there at our fingertips. We have all of these tools at our fingertips. It's just a matter of putting them into practice. All right. Any last questions before we move on to the next call?
Let's see. I don't see anything.
Thanks for joining, guys. Oh, how long have you been spinning before you found the I like literally woke up one morning. Oh no, yes, it was. I was laying in bed asleep, and all of a sudden I opened my eyes and the room started spinning. So the crystal has dislodged at some point. And then I grabbed my oils right away. So
Well, thank you so much, Jodie. This has been obviously fascinating, especially if you've just heard this for the first time about auricular therapy. You know, every part in the body, there's something that you can do with pressure points, with oils, and it's just amazing. And this is just another fabulous way to get connected. And so thank you so much. I am grateful. And I wrote down also, you talked about doing some shadow work, so we can maybe put you on the schedule for that in the future.
Totally. That'd be
So
fun.
that will be awesome. And we'll get ready for Sarah, who's going to teach us more about the business tonight aspect with candy. So hope it's straight candy, right? Clean. But anyhow, I'm sure we don't eat it. We're just learning with it. So we'll get started with that right now. And so just one
You
second.
guys, thank you.
Thank you very much.